Good morning, brand DIYers. It is Mark here. Let me just dial the screen up a little bit. I hope you're having a good Thursday. I just had something unexpected happen. We had a special guest on, Thomas Gerard, very cool, very smart dude. And we had to postpone his workshop, which was going to be the very first time we actually had an expert come on and host their own workshop. However, do not fret, do not despair. Thomas will be back. We just had to postpone. These things happen. However, that encouraged me to step forward with another topic that I have been meaning to talk to you about, something that is near and dear to my heart. That is a very obvious way to build your brand, something that all of us have, but very few of us actually exploit. And by the way, if you talk to your customers, 99% of them would love it if you offered them this. What is this secret sauce? It is predictability. It is a system for guaranteeing success. Now, if you have a service or if you have a product, it doesn't matter. You have a system for engaging with your client or customer. If it's a product, person walks into your store, whether that's online or in person, they look around, they choose the product or they compare it with other products, they choose the product, they pay for the product, they get signed up for loyalty, and they go on their merry way. If it's a service, a prospect contacts you, you talk to them about what you offer, they sign up, you go through the process of servicing them, and they go on their merry way. All of us do the same thing. What all of us do not do is turn that process, which chances are you've probably done a lot of times, into a system. And when I'm saying system, what I'm actually saying is a system that is written down. Now, I have discovered that if it comes down to tiebreakers and you have two vendors selling the same product or service, customers will go with the vendor who can show them a step-by-step process or a methodology or a best practice on how they will be treated. Now, that can be as simple as saying, here is how our returns policy work. Here is how our guarantees work. Or here, in the case of a service, are the steps that we take from the day you plonk down your retainer to the day that we actually finish off the process. Here are the 10 steps to success that we take. If it comes to a tiebreaker and you have two vendors, the person who can guarantee predictable success by mapping out a methodology will win. Now, here's where the tricky part is and why most of us never write this down and why most of us never turn it into a system that we tell our customers about. One, we're lazy. But anyway, the real reason, well, lazy is kind of the real reason, but the real reason is that we look at our process and we go, well, that's kind of boring. A process for honoring a warranty? Well, everybody does that. Let me remind you of the very first episode of Mad Men, that great TV show. You can still get it on Netflix. Watch the very first episode. In that episode, the founders and his son of Lucky Strike cigarettes comes into the ad agency. And they want something to make their own. They want to call something their own. And they back and forth, and they're on the verge of leaving the agency, frustrated to give their business to somebody else, when Don Draper, the brilliant creative director, says, how do you make your cigarettes? And they say, well, we pick the tobacco, we dry the tobacco, we toast the tobacco, and he stops them right there. He says, what? He says, well, yeah, we dry the tobacco, we toast the tobacco. You toast the tobacco. And the tobacco executives look at each other, they go, yeah, but everybody else toasts their tobacco too. He goes, no, You toast their tobacco. You toast your tobacco. Everybody else creates cancer-causing cigarettes. You are the only ones who toast your tobacco because you're the ones who said it. Went on to become an immortal tagline. Lucky strike, they're toasted. What does it mean? Nothing. But it talks about a process that they go through that is captivating to the audience. And that is the key word, captivating. Writing down your process for honoring a warranty can be as dull as dirt. Or you can capture part of that process and write it down, something that captures the imagination. So how do you separate the boring stuff from the stuff that captures the imagination? Well, you've heard me say this a million times before. It's all about asking your customers. I say be lazy. Just ask your customers and they will tell you. However, that's not the first step. The very first step that you want to do when you're systematizing your process or you're systematizing for success is to jot down all the steps in a process. That could be the customer journey on their way to buy your product and then going out the door when they finish buying your product, or it can be a service engagement. What are all the steps? Second thing you want to do, look at all the steps and try to figure out which of those steps are particularly rewarding for you. Now, I don't know about yourself, but what I find particularly rewarding is taking my clients through the process of research and then showing them the insights from their customers and then brainstorming with them on how those insights should become part of the foundation of their brand. Now that to me is exciting because what happens is with almost every single case, my clients walk in, they go, I think the brand should be this. And I go, aha, I've got a surprise for you. All the people who like your brand think it should be that. Their eyes open wide and they go, wow, that's so cool. And then you start down this path of brainstorming in a new direction, and it's terrifically exciting for clients. So that is something that I have systematized. I say every single time when we engage, I do this, this, and this. So which is the process that is particularly rewarding for you? For me, it is the research part of the experience that is particularly rewarding because I just see my clients light up like a Christmas tree. Which are the mundane parts? To me, it is the actual execution, because usually what I do, I bring in my able-bodied contractors and they get all the work done. And that's kind of when I'm out of the picture. I just check in to make sure that everything looks terrific, which, hey, trust me, that is a fun thing too. But that's not where my clients light up like Christmas trees, because by then they're going, of course, this is what it's going to look like. This is what we expected. This is what the customers told us. Now, you have written down all the steps of your process. You have highlighted the parts of that process that are personally exciting and rewarding for you. Now comes the good part. It's time to talk to your customers and your stakeholders. Take them through all the steps of your process, both the mundane ones, the ones that you don't feel that excited about, and the ones that you think are really great. Which of those steps are familiar to them? Now, if the research process is something, for example, that my clients didn't even know happened, that might catch them by surprise and they might go, oh, that's really neat. Or they might go, oh, well, yeah, whatever, you do research, so what? It's important to notice the difference in inflection that they give you. If you find your clients are fascinated by something that you find fascinating, mark that thought. That's an important one. If there is a step that is familiar to you and familiar to them and they go, yeah, boring, boring, I like that. That's always fun. Boring, boring, exciting. That's great too. Mark down all the stuff that they find interesting, whether it's the first time they've heard that you do that or they know that that is what you do like the back of their hand. Okay? Familiar and unfamiliar steps. Take your clients through them. Listen hard. See what they find interesting. Now, it's time to review what you've done. First, Review and look at all the steps and go, of all these steps, which are the ones which I find mundane, that my clients aren't really excited by, that are just kind of like answering the mail. Well, of course you do that. Of course you turn on the lights when you go to work in the morning. You don't need to document that. Okay? So chuck those off the table. Doesn't mean you're not going to do them. You do them. They're part of your process, but you don't need to talk about them. So, second part, the steps that your customers find rewarding that you also find rewarding. Those are the important ones. The third, and this is kind of a surprise, ask your customers if there are steps that they wished you had taken. Perhaps they wish that you would have reviewed the proposal with them on the phone instead of just sending it over. This is something you might never have thought of. So it's very important to take note of that because it's something they want and something you don't overtly do. So 1, all the stuff that your customers find boring and you find boring and just mundane, sweep it off the table. Don't need to document that. 2, stuff that your customers find exciting about your process and that you find rewarding about your process, hang on to that. 3rd, listen hard to your customers, and if they gave you some steps that they wish you had taken, or if they mentioned steps that you didn't actually take, but they believe you took, mark those down, because that is something you should be adding to your process. All right, next step. Time to draw a simple infographic. I'm talking about drawing it with a felt pen on a napkin. That simple. Draw a simple infographic. Can you draw a simple step-by-step process that incorporates all the cool stuff that you like to do that your customers find valuable? Can you actually create that in a real clear 1, 2, 3 ABC form? And also make sure to incorporate your customer suggestions. Does what you do, what you like, the 1, 2, 3 ABC, can you somehow incorporate the steps that they wish you would take or they think you took but you didn't actually take? If you can build that into a simple ABC 1, 2, 3 infographic step by step, you're winning. Couple of final steps just to stitch it up. Take a look at that process. What is it a process for accomplishing? In my case, it's a process for developing insights. Insight 101, I could call it. Can you give your process a name so that the next time you get on the phone with a customer, you say, you know, I'm going to take you through Insight 101. It's got a name. It must be systematized. It must be written down if it's got a name. They go, what is that? Well, it's my patented trademark process for getting really good insights from customers so that we come up with really good foundations for your brand. Oh, I like that. It sounds like you've done it a million times before and it's given you success. Yes, I have. So it's got a name, therefore it must be real. Second, are any of these steps quasi-unique to you? Or even if they're not unique, can you make them sound quasi-unique? Lucky strike, they're toasted. Not unique, sounds unique. Yes, part of my research process, I go and talk to your stakeholders and your customers. Second, what I do, I spread out the insights like candy on your bed after a good night Halloweening. Whenever I say that we spread out the insights like candy on a bed, like a good night Halloweening, my customers always go, oh, that's really neat. Sounds like you've done this a million times, and it captures their imagination. It's a kind of a neat figure of speech. They like that. Use stuff like that. Final step, is there any way to whittle down the number of steps so you can get it down to a simple 1, 2, 3? Talk to stakeholders. Spread out the candy on the bedspread. Brainstorm with you to come up with the great insights. Simple 3-step process. I can ask my customer to recite that back and they have no problem doing it. So what you should have after this back and forth is a part of your process for working with customers that appears like it's unique to you, like you've done it a million times, and that it works. The final step now is to make it look nice. You go to Upwork, you go to Fiverr, you go to any sort of freelancer and you say, can you make this process look like something I would want to print out and hand to my customers or put on my website? And that is the final step to systematizing a process. And of course, then it's all reward after that. When a customer goes to you, I think that you should pitch my business, you go, aha, before we talk about pitching, let's talk about this. It's my unique process that nobody else has, or if they have it, it's not as good as mine because I wrote it down. So there you go. Systematizing your process, something that almost none of us do, but that is incredibly powerful for building a brand that stands for systematized and predictable success, which is words from heaven for prospective clients or buyers. Have yourselves a great Thursday and stay tuned because we will be back with Thomas Gerard's workshop. We'll have to reschedule it for later this week or beginning of next week. And stay well. Take care.